podcast. My name is Sean Snowday. I am the co-founder and the voice of the Coach Marketing Mastery podcast here with India Kern.
Good morning. I'm trying to get us on Instagram. So you talk while I do that.
Okay, so with this live that we're doing a live stream right now. There are some challenges going to different social media. We're going to about 30 different outlets right now. And the one with Instagram, you have to put in a code every single time. So as India does that, I'm just going to introduce you to our topic today. And today we are going to be going over the strategies for consistency across marketing channels. Now, what exactly do we mean by that? One of the things we mean is what we're doing right now is we have various Instagram accounts. We have Coach Marketing Mastery Instagram account. The way it was set up was a little complicated, and it's separate from all of our other channels. So to bring it in to our infrastructure has been a little challenging. But you really want to be consistent with your words and your brand. So we're going to be talking about that today. So what challenges do you have right now with the consistency?
What challenges I have right now is getting on Instagram.
Yeah, so, but I'm saying on all across market, across all.
We were just talking about this, and here, let me just try to go live. So, we just started this Coach Marketing Mastery. What was it, like beginning of March?
7 weeks ago.
And so, so the thing is, we are just building on Instagram. And so I am actually doing it right now under my business, which is India Kern Coaching. And, I need to start shifting over to make it its own entity. So that is something I'm trying to grow that, but also I'm doing it under my umbrella. So, that's one of the things we actually preach that we need to do ourselves, eat our own dog food, so to speak, is we need to actually build out that Coach Marketing Mastery Instagram instead of going under just my India Kern Coaching. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm trying to go live, but I don't think it's working. That's okay.
Right. And so the other thing is we have, since we've partnered up, we have multiple things that I do, things that India doesn't do. India has things that I don't do. We mesh with the Coach Marketing Mastery, but also we're having to trailblaze for our clients. Now, there's other people that are ahead of us, like Anthony Robbins. He's been in the game a real long time. Oprah Winfrey, she's been in the game a real long time. So they're going to have consistency across. But everyone has a mess. Everyone has a mess behind their business. I even the people that are like, let me put it this way. If you're a coach, you basically coach on that which you have a challenge with. So everyone has challenges with marketing and sales. But if you're, I have a joke, I'm going to tell it and I shouldn't tell it, but it goes like this. What's the difference between a life coach and a career coach?
What?
A career coach got laid off. A life coach got fired, right? So, like a career coach is going to have challenges in their career. A life coach is just going to have challenges in their life. But the thing is also that, like, you're a divorce coach. So I've never been divorced, so I wouldn't be a divorce coach.
Right.
But what I'm saying is when we're bringing, when you have someone that says, I'm going to help you get organized, that's a person that has challenges with being organized, right? Yeah. And so then there's also behind, like I said, every business, there is a challenge and there is a mess. Every business I go into, and they'll be like, hey, look at how great I am. Every client that ever hires me, there's just a mess in the background. You come into my business and you're going to go, you don't even look at my desk. I don't think it's a mess, but other people, Carolyn would say, Carolyn says everything is a mess because she's so OCD. Everything is perfect in her house. She has containers within containers in her refrigerator. That's how organized she is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so so that's going to be we're going to be looking at our own social media. So we don't want everyone out there in podcast land to think we have it down. We're just going to go over a few things. The first one is going to be how to stand out online. Now, the reason you want to have consistency is when you stand out online, once you get there, then people are going to be looking at your other social media outlets. And if they don't mesh, they're going to question you. But you still need to stand out online before you clean it up. That's what we're doing. We're taking the action. People say ready, what is it? Ready, fire, aim, right? So we're just taking the actions. We're building the plane as we do it.
Right.
So what are some of the things you do to stand out online, India?
Well, I do reels, but I have to say that, I mean, reels and social media is more of a being an authority in my space, more so than gathering leads. I mean, I have gathered leads and, well, actually, it's gathering leads versus converting to clients, because it's kind of like dating. You know, it's like, hey, I'm here, notice me. Would you like to have a chat? Rather than, hey, do you want to go on it? Do you want to get married? You know, so for me, social media really validates me in what I do. And, they get to know, like, and trust me. So I give them things, they take, and sometimes they do convert. But social media for me is more about being an authority in my space versus thinking of it like a client collector, I guess you could say. Eventually, maybe through nurturing, it'll happen. But I look at it more as something that adds and enhances my business, more than like trying to get clients off Instagram. It has happened. But also, I want to make a point about consistency. You know, we work with a lot of people. We have a lot of sales calls. Gosh, we have like 4 a day or 5 a day. And what we have noticed is that sometimes you'll see someone and say they're a speaker, but then you go to their Instagram and it has something completely different in their profile, like they sell
Right.
shoes or something. You're like, wait a second, do you sell shoes or are you a speaker? And they're like, oh, wait, I didn't even know. So make
Right.
sure that you go through all your social media and you are consistently saying the same thing. The message is the same. I am a speaker for, young men in their 20s who haven't launched, whatever it may be. But make sure you're consistent, because people get confused very easily. And you
Well,
want to make
also,
it easy.
Anthony Robbins went through this because he was self-development in the 70s and 80s, and then he became the business, how to run a business thing. And
Right.
I've seen other guys that are in his petri dish that are they sell a lot of hope over there. I'm not saying Anthony Robbins does, but there's other people that are like, I've been to their events and they're just telling people, oh yeah, you could do that. And I'm like, no, they're never going to be able to do that. But my point is that when he went into how to grow a business, that's not who Anthony Robbins was in the beginning.
Right.
So when he went into this whole business thing, he had to go shift and go through all this. One of the things I did to stand out online is I was a goof. I'd go on the internet, I'd sing songs, I'd tell jokes, I'd play piano. I have videos out there of me playing some Led Zeppelin song on a piano, because I had the same sound of the 70s. And the point was, I bought this keyboard for $50 and I had this big 70s sound, right? So that's kind of how I stood out. But then there were some things out there, they weren't really there. It was more like I would get canceled because it was funny at the time, but it's no longer funny. So a lot of people are having to go back and either make videos private or just delete them altogether.
Yeah.
And so I was coached by this guy named Jay Abraham, who actually lives where I grew up in Palos Verdes, California. And I can't remember. I have the video of him coaching me, and he was telling me there's this method to how you shift your, who you're being, right? And your brand. How do you shift it from this to that? So one of the things you do to stand out online is you go surfing,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, hey, I'm the surfer girl, and dropping into the 6-foot wave to the glory of the Lord and all that. I say that all the time, right? But the thing is, what are some other ways that people can stand out online? The main thing is just to be yourself.
Right.
But
Authenticity is critical. So I love to have fun. So I try to bring some humor to it, even though my topic as a divorce coach can be heavy. But I want to get back to something you said earlier about Tony Robbins and the evolution. As coaches, as entrepreneurs, it's natural to evolve. So even right now, I'm a divorce coach, but I also am doing like coaching coaches. But that's what we do, and it is changing a branding or a side hustle, if you will. But I think that is part of the process of being an entrepreneur, is evolving. So like you said, Tony Robbins didn't start out in the business space. He started out in self improvement. And so he shifted. I feel like I'm doing that right now. Not so much you. You've always been pretty much in this space. Well, have you?
no, well, yeah, because I wasn't on television or radio.
Yeah.
Even though I have a face for radio.
Anyway, so evolution is natural, and it's good, and it's part of the process.
So I'm going to bring up some names, and you might get a little upset about this. I don't know. Do you know that guy named Frank Kern? Anyhow, so, but here's the deal, is that I remember that Anthony Robbins and Frank Kern and John Reese all sat down, because they're the ones that got Anthony Robbins into the digital age.
Right.
And so they brought up the web form. And so Frank actually said to Anthony Robbins, he says, so what you're going to want to do is get a web form. And Anthony Robbins says, what's a web form? And Frank did his hands. Ooh, this is going to be good.
Right.
So the thing is that, all of us have this evolution, and which would really be another really great podcast, would be the evolution of business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to go on to the next thing, is not just standing out line, but having your brand stand out online. So the way that some of these people did it, Apple is what everyone talks about, Steve Jobs and what he did and the way he did it, and of course Coca-Cola and Disney and Starbucks. But it's the perception that shapes your brand identity. So when you see the logo, you go into a certain emotion. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what I like to talk about, I loved Walt Disney growing up, right? I don't have any issues with it now, but I know a lot of people that when they see the Disney logo, they get a little bit sick in their stomach now. And I guess that's a little bit more political than brand awareness. And it might be because of what they're doing in the background politically, which I don't know, because I don't follow up on that stuff. But then with the Coca-Cola and the Nike swoosh, everyone is they have a certain attachment, and they branded them in such a way. So of all these brands, what would you consider? Like when you look at the Apple logo, what do you think about?
Well, I am an Apple person, so
right.
I love Apple products. I like the experience when you go into an Apple store and like looking at all the gadgets, and it's a pleasant experience, except I don't like waiting. But usually if there's not a lot of people, like on a weekday, it's a fun thing to go do, because you can learn things. You can, of course, get new gadgets. So I enjoy the Apple experience, and I think they did a phenomenal job doing that, where you go into this place and have a good time and discover new products you can buy.
Yeah. So Apple really had like the way they say it is when you get your iPhone, it makes that sound when you open the box, right? It makes that little sealed sound. And then for some reason, they put the iPhone at the very top, so you're going to break your first one. This is how they doubled the size of their business. Everyone that got an iPhone for the first time broke the very first one, because I don't know why they do that. Why don't they put it in the middle of the box?
Oh, they broke it when they opened the box.
Everybody does. You
I
open
didn't
the
know that.
box, it falls right out.
Oh, that's funny.
So now you know when you open the box, you have to be really careful when
Yeah,
you open the box on your new iPhone. Okay. So
right.
everybody knows that that's an Apple. So it's delicate, right? So they're letting you know, hey, this is something that you really want to be focused on, aware of, and you want to really take care of this, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Another thing is what Apple did, which is I'm going to ask you this question. Do you still have your Apple box?
I have one of them because I have an old Apple that I put it in, an old Apple iPhone. But for the most part, no, I don't have the box.
Oh, you just throw the boxes away? Okay, so you're one of those people. I
I
have
just
the
threw,
box.
I just threw the earbud AirPods away last night too. Not the actual
Yeah,
AirPod, the box.
I still have a brand new unsealed box of earbuds. I buy them, but I just don't like them. I never use them. I have 2 pairs of them.
I
Never
don't
use.
like clutter, so it's
So
gotta get
then
rid of
there's another thing I want to talk about the experience, the brand experience, so the perception and everything. I don't know if this is the best time, but is there any way that you can ruin your brand?
Sure.
How
Yeah.
would you do it? We're not going to go into it, but I'm going to show you. We're going to go about that far into it. Now, listen, this really enhanced it for the people, but not for the people. So, by the way, for the listeners on the podcast, we're showing a Bud Light can.
Yeah.
And the Bud Light is the very
You
controversial.
got to know your audience, right? This is what
Yeah,
this ties into.
this is exactly where you need to know your audience. You don't
Got to
want
know
to
your
be on a
audience,
military base.
right?
And this was a good there's good intentions here, I'm
Mhm,
sure. I don't
mhm,
really know this person's name, but they were their picture was put on this Bud Light can and it became very controversial.
mhm.
And the thing is, it's not so much that this happened, it was that Bud Light did not apologize to the people, to their people that were buying it. They don't need to apologize about, whatever politically or the woke stuff, but they just could say, hey, listen, our intention was not to offend you. And
Right,
if we did, we're sorry. They
right,
never said that.
right.
And that is okay to say. Like, you're not selecting any particular person. You're just saying, look, our intention was not to be offensive.
Mhm.
And it was to unite everyone, not to separate,
I
right?
have a good example of this. It's different context. So there was this, I just saw it. There was this big conference. It was like a Christian men's conference. And they had like this guy come dance and he did swords, like swallowing and all kinds of stuff. But it was a little risque and he took off his shirt and it was very stripper like. And it just didn't match, right? So it didn't go over at all. As you can
Yeah,
imagine, the crowd just went, what the hell is this? And they started like booing, and it just went downhill from there. And then another pastor got up there and said, we have Jezebel in the house. And so, I mean, it was the biggest train wreck ever. But the person, the event planner, the pastor, whoever came up with that, it was just a bad idea. He was not thinking about his audience. A group of Christian men don't want to see this man who's kind of stripper like dance on the stage at a Christian male conference. I mean,
yeah,
it's a no-brainer. But that's what we do in our business many times is we are targeting the wrong audience. We are in front of a bunch of Christians and we are talking about taking a mushroom trip or whatever. You got to know your audience, right?
right. We have so I'm an Infusionsoft partner at PartnerCon many years ago. It's a big, huge event. It takes up multiple stories. They're big events to put on. Back in the day, they were huge. And so they always, if you go to the Vegas ones, there's always that one where they have the girls in their early 20s that are kind of like bodybuilders. They're really toned. They wear the really, really, really tight clothes, almost like a leotard. And they stand at the booth, and everyone's supposed to go to the booth and go, and oh, hey, what are you guys selling over there? And you're like, well, we're selling widgets, right? But the girls are the attraction.
Right.
Well, and I remember these girls had a bright pink, one had bright pink and one had bright green. That was probably their brand colors. No one went to the booth. No one. Because we're super nerds. That's not what attracts us. And it's a Mormon-based company.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So it's like, okay.
No, don't want to do that. Yeah.
Now I was like over there and I was like, well, holy smoke, look at those hot chicks. I'm on my way.
Right.
I spent my whole day. I spent actually the whole weekend there. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't. But my point is that
No,
yeah. So it's knowing that. Now I want to go back to this page right here, the perception of the brand and the brand identity, but it's the brand experience, right? The experience you have at Apple. I don't want to say what bank I have, but when I walk in, they go, welcome. There's going to be someone, and the way they're taught, and the same thing with Chick-fil-A. What do they say at Chick-fil-A?
My pleasure.
My pleasure, right? I like to say it's an honor. When I work with someone, it's an honor and a pleasure. That's what I say. But they say my pleasure. Now there's a place, and I literally went into Banana Republic in La Jolla when it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went in there and I went in there specifically for the experience. So when I walked in, and this is going to take about 3 minutes for me to say this, but if you're on the podcast listening, you might want to take notes or at least just listen. I walk in there and they go, welcome to Banana Republic. Have you been here before? Right? So that's a question, which is Boolean logic. I'm going to say yes or no. And so I said, no. Well, great. Then let me show you where the store is. Over here is men's, over here is women's. This is where you get this, is where you get that. They just pointed it out. And then they said, so what did you come in for today? Oh, a pair of pants. Let me walk you over to where the pants are. Did you want pants or do you want shorts? So they're trained to take you through this whole thing, right? Now, if they said, have you ever been here before? Yes. What brings you in today? Were you looking for a particular item? Oh, no, I'm just shopping. Are you shopping for anything particular? Clothes, or were you looking for a watch? I don't know if they sell watches, right? So they're really trained these people for a great experience to where they take you through everything, right? And then the other thing is at the very end, when you go to buy something, at the very end, they go, this is before they ask, would you like a text or a receipt? They printed out the receipt and they go, here's your receipt. And they literally pointed to the website on the receipt. Here's our website where you can download a 20% off coupon for the next time you come in. And that never expires. So we'd love to see you again. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the experience that I'm not going to forget. Now, I don't know if they're even still in business.
They are. They're just online only.
Yeah. That's just like any big brand. Like there's a brand called, I wore it all the time, and it was Von Dutch. I had like Von Dutch hats were like $80. I had like 10 Von Dutch hats. I got a Von Dutch shirt that Johnny Depp gave me. It's in my closet. And it was for the disaster relief when they had that big tsunami wiped out the islands. So anyhow, Von Dutch, and I'm going to go on the next page, but I just want to tell you guys a story of how the brand was ruined. The kid that bought the brand, okay, Von Dutch was a pinstriper.
Skater, wasn't it a skater? Kind of.
No, he was a pinstriper.
Pinstriper
for cars. So he would drink and he just had a perfect smooth hand. So the kid that bought the brand, he took it to he got all the influencers to wear it and everything. But what happened was he mismanaged the money. So all the people that were making the hats, they're the same people that were making a hat you buy at the gas station, right?
Yeah.
So all the manufacturers that were making the hats and the shirts and the pants and everything, they said, hey, listen, you owe us money, like net 30, net 90 terms. And he couldn't pay them. And he got like an argument. So what happened was they said, we have all these hats. You broke the contract. Now we're going to flood the market. So he had a Von Dutch store with an $80 hat, and you could buy the same hat at a gas station for $10. And they're like, dude, we got to get rid of this inventory.
Yeah.
and then all the stores closed. And now they're still expensive, but they're not $80 hats anymore. All right.
Mhm.
So we went through the brand. We went through um, uh, decisions that people can make to ruin a brand. And the recovery is going to be a long recovery. You know, every time I go to the store, I see just all the beers empty except Bud Light. It's just packed in there, right? And then we have success stories. So the success stories with your brand are going to be success stories from your clients themselves. But we have our own little success story, such as right out the gate, we started making money, in my opinion. Like, we built this and we're flying the plane as we built it. And then the people can see the value immediately of what we have to offer.
Yep.
And we're you know, we've got 10 recurring clients, you know, and we're only, I think it's 9 weeks old, but
Yeah.
it was the first month was, you know, I was I went to Arizona, I went to Vegas, and I don't mean Arizona where I live. I mean, I was somewhere else in Arizona, then Vegas, and then North Carolina. I was all over the place. And and we built this thing.
Yeah.
As we both were traveling. Okay.
Well, let's stop for a second. I'd like to just introduce what you do and what I do, because I think sometimes people are like, what exactly do you do together? And I put a reel together the other day, and it basically says super nerd, and Sean's completely fine with me calling him that because he calls himself that. Super nerd plus content creator equals dynamic duo. So I bring messaging, AI expertise, and branding, and Sean brings like the tech, software engineer, all the back end funnel creation, and every software he knows up and down. So that's the combination we bring to the table. We do two very different things, but each one of us are gifted in our area. So together we make a complete full package. So that's what we do.
It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
I said salt and pepper.
Coffee and cream, shrimp and grill.
Oh, no, that's what I said. How about Oreo?
Well, I didn't go there because I did.
Hey, check this out. You can buy Oreo cookies and have them designed. Go to Oreo.com. This podcast is sponsored by Oreo cookies. And you can go to Oreo.com. I just saw that this guy did. And you could have a custom Oreo made with a picture of your grandma on it.
That's hilarious. That's great. Maybe we should do that for Coach Marketing Mastery and have our logo on the Oreo, because, you know.
Yeah. And we'll hand them out when we have a live event, which will be coming up soon. We're going to be talking about that this week, but some other success stories are going to be the success stories your clients have. So I'll tell you one that I had. It was over a decade ago, and I started working with a guy. He's making 30 grand a month, and he brought me on board. And within 90 days, he made $120,000 in one day. Now, he would have made more than $120,000 that day had he listened to me, but he didn't. There's technical challenges. But I don't want you guys to think that he made $120,000. You hear this from the stage all the time. Someone hired me. She was, this person was living in a box on Skid Row, and they hired me, and 30 days later, they made $50,000 in 1 hour. That's not what I'm saying. There's a lot of affiliates, a lot of team. That guy still probably took home $30,000 that month, but his business brought in, it quadrupled. Okay. And what happened is his list grew. So now he started making 40, 50 grand a month. Okay. So it's not like you make all this money in one day. There's a lot of work that goes into that. Right. We did a campaign. This is another success story with a disaster in the middle of it. We did a campaign for Ocean Robbins, Anthony Robbins, and Paul McCartney. These are three big names. So Ocean Robbins, if you think about Baskin and Robbins, he's the Robbins from Baskin and Robbins, but he's a health nut. He doesn't like the sugar. He doesn't like the obese America. He's really about health, kind of hippy dippy. So we launched this campaign, generated 100,000 leads in one day, and it crashed the server. Wow. And it's called what is called is it got throttled. No one can generate that many leads. in just a couple hours. Well, if you're Paul McCartney, Anthony Robbins, and Ocean Robbins, you
Right.
can do that, right? But the people that were the server-based people, they didn't know that, so they just got really concerned what's going on here. And it
Mhm.
unfortunately happened on a Friday, so we had to scramble over the weekend, call a lot of CEOs of major software packages at their homes. We had to hunt them down and make that campaign successful.
Mhm.
So yeah, so there's other success stories that we have. Do you have any?
I do. I haven't advertised as this is my divorce coaching business, and I made it to #1 on Google in San Diego by reviews from testimonies from clients. So that is a success story. No paid SEO, no paid Google ads. That was strictly organic, and it was me asking for a review.
Yeah, testimonials. And we actually have, you remind me, we have software for testimonials that we can give to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to find it. It's really super cool. I can't remember how it works. Okay, now building trust through branding. A lot of people, if you think of a lot of brands, like what are some brands that you like and trust?
Let's see. Well, actually, Banana Republic is one of those that it's a go-to, especially for my business meetings. So that's one of the clothing. As far, I love. This is Trader Joe's. I love Trader Joe's. I'm just a raving fan of Trader Joe's. My
Right,
husband likes Costco. That's
right,
his happy place.
right.
So, yeah. What else?
Well,
Um,
so I like Vans. I'm wearing a Vans hat. I'm wearing Vans shoes. When I was a little boy, Vans came in 3 colors. They were like white, blue, and red, and we
mhm.
called them boat shoes. And they weren't really called Vans in
Yeah,
the 60s.
yeah.
And then the skater culture came out. And I'm from the beach in California, it was like for me, you have to have these Vans.
Right.
Well, what Vans did is they started making like everyone else had like these solid color shoes or maybe stripes on the side of their shoes, but Vans did blue and red, and they were blue in the front and back and red in the center. Everyone had them.
Hmm.
And I went to junior high. I didn't have them. I got punched in the chest because I wasn't wearing Vans. I was
Hmm.
probably wearing shoes from the boys' market or something from some grocery store. I just got out of military school, so
Yeah.
I wore the shoes I wore were you polished with, I had the Brasso for my belt and I had shoe polish for my shoes, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so when I got into uh, public school, I go home to my mom and I'm like, Mom, I got to have some red and blue Vans. And my mom loved me enough; she got me those, and I was widely accepted in junior high because of the clothes I was wearing. And there's another thing where it's called Ocean Pacific (OP).
I
If
remember. Okay. Yeah.
if you weren't wearing Vans and you weren't wearing OP, then you're just a punk. And
Hmm.
so I had to have my OPs and I had my Vans. And if
Yeah.
when I see pictures to this day of me wearing those red and blue Vans, I always scream out on Facebook, look, I got my red and blue Vans on. Now, nobody knows that, but it's the trust that Vans built,
Hmm.
right? The know, like, and trust that Vans built in little children in the skater community,
Right.
right? So if you were a skater punk listening to like Suicidal Tendencies and Slayer and all those bands, not really Slayer, but Suicidal Tendencies and Black Flag and just all the punk rock, then you were really accepted in my town anyhow.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So then what about like the dependability, like the shoes lasted? That was another thing. They also came with this little stickiness at the bottom of the shoe that when you pulled it out, it would like kind of thought and then I think the reason they did that is that you were like, "Ooh, I'm going to grip to my skateboard." I don't know why they did that, but I really felt that way. They lasted a long time. The purpose was so that when you skate, the skateboard won't fall out from under your shoes. And
Hmm.
for the self, it just really brought a self-awareness to myself and to my clique that we were all skater punks and we were cool, right?
Well, I think this is something that we do with Coach Marketing Mastery. We offer a master class where you get to see us in action, and it's free. So that builds trust. You get to first try us out, see what you think. If it is of value, then you can take the next step. But that's how we together build trust. We offer something that we think will bring value to your business.
Yeah. And you know what the funniest thing about that is? Every Monday we do this podcast, and what we do at the masterclass, we do now.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, "Do you record it?" And we're like, "No." And
But
it's
we do, actually. We should just send them this, actually.
no, because we want them showing up, right?
Yeah. No, I
Okay.
mean after they show up. You want a recording? Check out our podcast.
Yeah, just go to the subscribe to the podcast, right?
Exactly.
So then with the embracing change and growth, now this is the big thing, just like what we were saying with Anthony Robbins. Like when Anthony Robbins came out, the internet was not popular.
Right.
I think the internet started like in the late 70s. That it was called it's TCP/IP, transmission control protocol, internet protocol. That's TCP/IP, and the IP address probably the late 70s, early 80s. And I taught a whole class. I could teach an 8-hour class on TCP/IP.
Wow.
But then when the digital age came out, like he was on television, he was on radio. But then when the internet came out, he had to embrace that change and get used to that, right? So other people really need to do that. And when you're starting out, let's talk about some of the people that we've worked with where we think they'd be successful somewhere else if they did something and they chose to stay where they were. So how am I going to say this?
Which one? Well, you go first. You prompt me because I don't know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, you go ahead because I don't want to be embarrassed and say something and have them listen to this.
Well, I won't say what I'm thinking, but I will use an analogy. So again, going back to we know there are people out there that do like mushroom trips, right? They guide mushroom trips. They're like a shaman, if you will. And so if you're doing that, you got to make sure who you're talking to, because there's a lot of people that really would turn them off. And so, we hear things sometimes of people's big ideas and we're like, well, what if you were to do train the trainer versus being the entertainer or whatever it may be. And sometimes people don't want to hear it. They are so invested in their idea. So you got to make sure that your idea actually is going to be something that people want and not just what you think people want. And that's what a mistake oftentimes entrepreneurs make, is that we think we have the greatest idea ever. But if we go and test it and see what people want, it's not really a product or a service that people actually want.
Right.
I'll say that diplomatically enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we've had people just in the past week that have been on our calls with us that they were saying, I'm going to do this. And I was like, that is never going to sell. Right. No one wants to do that. Right. Now, when you have a great idea and it's your baby, right? And someone says your baby is nothing, you watch Shark Tank and they do it. Mr. Wonderful does it all the time. You're dead to me. That's what he says. Right. And the thing is, I love when he says that to people and they prove him wrong, right? Like The Ring. It was called Doorbot initially, and then the guy sold Ring. It was the is at your front porch, and it was the video, and rather than knocking on the door, you talk through the thing. It's video, and that guy ended up making more money. His net worth is now more than most of the sharks, except Mark Cuban, right? And he came back as a shark, but initially they said to him, dude, that is not a good, but there's other times when you could clearly see that what you're trying to do is not going to go anywhere. It will go in what you're currently doing, but you can't scale it. You're not be able to grow it, and no one wants to learn how to do it. right?
Right.
So let me give you an example. If we want to do basket weaving, you
Mhm.
love basket weaving. So you could say, hey, I'm going to do some basket weaving and I'm going to go into this major corporation and we're going to have a team, what's it called? A team whatever.
Team building activity.
Yeah, team building. And we're all going to weave baskets and we're going to learn something from that, right? That's fine. But if you go to an audience of 1,000 people and say, hey, everyone, I have a class on how to weave a basket. They're going to be like, well, I'll weave a basket right now, but I'm not going to buy your
course
training
or whatever.
weave a
Yeah.
basket,
Yeah.
unless I'm that person. You might sell 3 of them out of 1,000, but I
Right.
doubt it, right? So there's that. And then, but also the progress, not perfection. We are in that right now. So the name of this was the consistency in your brand. We're right now in the middle of progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
So India has her LinkedIn
Instagram.
page. Mine has Business Buyers Academy on it because we teach you how to buy a business, how to sell a business, how to scale a business, right? I also have investor, copywriter, digital marketer, right? So I have all these things, but that's my brand. I can't really change that because I'm still doing that. But I can have this embedded under the umbrella of that, right?
Right. Right.
So that's going to be LinkedIn. But the difference, within LinkedIn, we can have a group that is specifically Coach Marketing Mastery. We can have a group in Facebook, right? We can have a YouTube channel specifically for that. Instagram. So that's the way you can brand that underneath the umbrella of your parent company.
Right.
So that's another way you can go about that. But then also, if you're new, you got to get out there right now. Like, don't perfect it. Go ahead on that, India.
Yeah. I mean, like I love the idea of doing a group on LinkedIn. We should definitely do that today. Instagram, I said earlier, right now I'm putting all of Coach Marketing Mastery under my India Kern Coaching, but I really do. I plan to shift it over to its own entity. So right now we don't have any followers on Coach Marketing Mastery. So now it's my job to start, making content so people will be interested in following us. It'll be a slow play, and that's okay. But consistency is important, and it's practice, and it's progress, not perfection. And
Right.
so that's what I'll do, even though like we don't have any followers on Coach Marketing Mastery, but we will, and
Well,
that's okay.
on what? On
On
Instagram?
Instagram, because we haven't built it out. So I'm
Well,
going to do that.
we just made it. I
We
don't
just
even
made it like yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the other thing is you don't have to have these groups. We are already successful. We're already bringing in a lot of money just with what we're doing. But that's the whole point of this. Having the consistency in your brand, but in order to be successful, you don't have to have a lot of followers. You just have to have the right followers, right? Now, when it comes to taking calculated risks, that I've blasted out, like there's things that I have done marketing wise where I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I did this, right? I was like, oh, don't do that, right? But I did take the risk. I did try it. We're going to have a Coach Marketing Mastery Summit, which is going to be 3 days long, 6 hours a day. And India is probably not too happy about that, but that's what's going to eventually happen. And that's what we're building up to. But I've done other things. I have the automated marketing summit, and I use this software where people can just poach the prospects. And I work really hard at bringing these people in just so other people can sell to them, right? So that wasn't the wisest thing for me to do, was using specific software. Now I'm going to keep that going, but I'm not going to put my heart and soul into it for anyone listening, just so you know. But we do have, we had 750 people registered for the last one, and we have that list of people that go to that summit. So we do taste the risk, and then the failure. So failure is actually, I think, one of our core values is it's in here somewhere. where it's learn from your failures. So my coach, Craig Jacobson, he was the one that got me to where I am today, and he's done the most for me out of all the coaches I've ever invested in, and he always said we're going to fail at an epic level. It's so funny because I've been saying for years and years and years, I'm going to fail at an epic level, and then Roland comes out with a company called Epic, and I'm like, really, Roland? Like now when I say it, you're going to think I'm talking about you, which I'm not. I've been saying that for over a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you learn from your failures? What are some things you can do, and how do you know whether it's a failure or not?
Well, I've this is something I'm not afraid to put something out there and fail, because that is the process of success. It's just, you got to keep going until it's just like, what is Edison did, like, I don't know how many times it
10,000.
tested. Yeah, 10,000. And so it was 10,001 or whatever when it actually worked. And so I've done many things. Like, for instance, I recently tried to do a workshop for men and discovered that men do not gather when they're hurting, they retreat, unlike women. So that was a learning experience. And so we did it. It didn't work. We didn't invest much money into it. We invested some time, but I learned from it. And I thought, you know what, this we've learned. It's time to shut it down. Let's move on. I've also learned from doing different group coaching that you don't put a newly divorced person in with a post-divorce person, because they're at different stages of the grief process. So all that was good for me to experience, because now I've learned and I won't do it again. So I call it failing forward, because you just get that much closer to success.
I think a lot of what a lot of us learn is, like, I just was on a call with someone, and I made him an offer, and it was super cheap. And I can't remember what he said, but he said something to the effect of, like, we both need to profit from this. He needs to profit from being able to grow and scale. I need to profit with monetarily. But what I told him was, for me, it's not about money right now. I need to do this so I have an example to show everyone else. This is what we just did for this guy. Do you want us to do it for you? And now, but I didn't want to say, hey, I'll do that for $5,000. Then him go, oh, well, let me, I got the fish on the hook, right? I don't want to yank the fish off the hook. I'm like, I got you. I want to reel you in. I want you in my basket. And I want to, I just want to close this. I want to have that. But I've had many failures where I didn't charge enough.
Right.
I was charging, I was doing implementation at a real low price, and they had no faith in me. And I was just as good as I am today, and they had no faith or trust in me. And I actually raised my prices 5 times on the next person, and that person loved and adored me, doing the same work.
Right.
But just at 5 times the money, right? So what I learned from that is that, when you don't charge enough. Was it a failure? No, not really, because I learned a lot of stuff, but it was a challenge that I learned from.
You learned you are so worth it.
Yeah, I learned, whoa, hey, maybe we should go to that website. Okay, and the next and last one is going to be the platforms that we have. So the social media, the influencer, SEO, advertising, content, and testimonials. Okay. So when it comes to social media marketing, this is kind of your stuff. I'm more of the influencer partnerships. Right. So with social media marketing, how do you leverage those platforms?
That's a good question.
Well, I'm going to put it this way. When you make, this has to do with consistency in your brand. So when you have, let's say, Facebook, let's say LinkedIn, because you're more of that. The way you would leverage it is if you make a post and someone comments, what do?
I comment right back at them, because I want the interaction. I want the engagement. And same with Instagram. If someone comments, I comment right after them, whatever, like thumbs up, thanks for sharing, love your opinion. Even if it's bad, I comment. It's, say they disagree with me, I can still comment and not get into necessarily
A rap battle.
right, but I can comment. I even commented once with a GIF, which was really funny. It was the Big Lebowski, like that's your opinion, man. It was just
Yeah.
like it was fun. So
Man, that's like
don't get too wrapped around the axle when people disagree with you. Different platforms are different types of people. It attracts different types. YouTube is like it is a free for all. You will get anything, but don't get offended. Just comment back, and that actually helps your engagement, and it helps you go back to the top, and it's all good. So you got to have a little bit of a thick skin, but
right.
you can do it.
And then we have a hard stop coming up here,
Yeah.
but with the influencer partnerships, that's where now here's the deal with influencer partnerships. There's some people right now, I've reached out to them. Hey, you want to be on my podcast? Hey, you want to do a thing? And they are not replying. And I guarantee you that this person and I are going to be associated with each other. We're going to be collaborating with each other. And I think she could see something in me that I already see in me.
Mhm.
And I'm either a threat or I'm a collaborator, right? I like to think I'm a collaborator. However, the lack of response with particular influencers is because I'm not at that level yet. So you always want to start small. It's okay to, if you have a list of 100 people, talk with someone else that has a list of 100 and say, hey, you want to be on my podcast? I'll go on your podcast. And we have 40,000 downloads. With the podcast I have like 45,000 downloads. That's not a lot, but that's not some sipping tea either.
Right.
All right. With the SEO, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but again, India got to the top. If you type San Diego divorce coach, India comes to the top. That's all organic. So I'll say rather than SEO, I'll say organic. It's not paid.
Mhm.
And with the online advertising, we both have our challenges there. Be careful. Don't boost just because Facebook says this would be something good to boost, right? Because they're just saying, give us money, and you're probably not going to get your return on your investment.
Right.
India, tell us a little bit about content marketing.
So I want to back up for a second. For those of you that are starting small and don't have a lot of followers, actually that's okay, because you can have 1 million followers and have zero engagement, but you can have 500 followers and actually engage with them, and that's a better account. So
Yeah.
don't get so upset that the need to get followers. You want engagement. Okay, content marketing. I am constantly thinking of things, and I write it down, and I use AI to help me brainstorm. So that's what we show you how to do. I make life a lot easier for you in content creation, because it doesn't have to be hard. And if you don't like being on camera, that's okay. There's other ways to do it. But content marketing is my jam. I love it. I could do it all day long. And I do that with AI.
Yeah. And a lot of people think at Coach Marketing Mastery that we teach you how to do content. Content is definitely part of it, but we help you become a bigger fish in the bigger ocean using tools, strategies, content, images, and everything marketing that coaches need. Not just coaches, but small business, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, when it comes to the content is king. But if you're not getting your message out there to the right place and get in front of the right people at the right time with the right message, then it doesn't really matter what your content is.
Right.
I don't know how many people say, I'm a speaker. I go, where do you speak? Well, I speak anywhere. Well, India and I are speaking right now. If you have a microphone in your laptop, which you do, and you have a Facebook page, what you do, you can go live by yourself, speak, and that means you're a speaker. All right.
Right.
Kind of getting angry because some of our clients don't do this, and it makes me batty. Okay. And then you're also the master of online reviews.
So yeah, I always ask for a review, and even in a touchy subject as divorce, I want a review. And if you could do that for me, that would be great. So,
Right.
so my clients actually do it, and that's what helped me grow and be number one in San Diego, a divorce coach. So ask for testimonies, ask for reviews.
Right.
Because people will, if they are finding value with you, they'll give it to you.
Right. And one of the things with the reviews, when I do a podcast, okay, I'll have a guest on a podcast. At the very end of the podcast, I'll go, okay, yippee ki yay. And then you pause, you do the face. By the way, every time you make a video, make your happy face at the end and then stop it. So that way it can be edited correctly. But the thing is, I stopped the recording and then I asked them, "Hey, what did you think?" And they go, "Wow, that was a really great interview, Sean." Everyone else like asked me this. It's kind of like a Nardwar, right? Everyone else asks all these questions, but this particular person really interviews me about stuff that I'm not asked about all the time, right? And that's who I am in my interviews. And I go, "Hey, can I get a voice recording of you?" And then I'll go. And they'll go, "Hey, I just got up," and they'll give me a testimonial while they're online with me. And then I'll just download that. I'll upload it to like Otter AI, rip it to a script, or you could upload it to YouTube and have their AI. And then I have the testimonial, and I ask them, "Can I use this in my marketing?" while they're on face to face with me.
Right.
And they go, "Yes," and I go, "That's all I need."
Yeah. And people do that also. Say you get a client that writes back and says, "This was so great." Say, "Do you mind if I use that, what you just wrote me in a review? I don't have to, if you want to be anonymous, that's fine." I do it all the time. When people say good things, I'm like, "Do you mind if I use that?" And they don't care. Of course, they want you to use their words.
Right. Yeah. And even when I wrote my book, it was funny, and I shouldn't say this, but I will. When I wrote my book, I went to some of my biggest fans and I said, "Hey, I need some reviews for my book. And I think you would say this about me.
Oh yeah.
And if this is something you would say, please reply and change the words if you want. If I don't hear back from you, I'm going to assume it's okay to use it."
Yeah, you can write the review for them. I mean, I've said, if you don't have time, if you approve this, then we can use this. If not, by all means, write your own words. And that's not cheating. They approved it,
Well, the shenanigans with me was I said, "If you don't reply,"
Right. I
and
get it.
that means yes. It's kind of, if you ever saw The Revenant, the guy said, all you have to do is blink your eyes. You'd have to see the movie what I'm talking about. And then Leonardo DiCaprio is like, "Don't blink your eyes." Like how can you not blink your eyes, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's one more thing. We got a hard stop. We're coming up on another call. So thank you all for listening. There's another thing of Coach Marketing Mastery. Go to coachmarketingmasterclass.com for free training from India Kernan and myself. And we will see you there. Coach Marketing Masterclass every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Thank you, India.
Thank you.